I found difficult was Lambert's reluctance to really communicate. In order to get him to communicate, I used to have to provoke an argument. It was often the only way that I could get him to open up.
We did have the odd argument, and then, well, I'd shut up and not talk for 24 hours, and then I'd pretend at normal self again. But I wouldn't apologise for yesterday.
I'm the eldest of 3 girls. We were brought up on a farm in isolation. We had a very loving upbringing. Mum and Dad working together all the time on the farm. Us girls, we did everything on the farm.
I was born in Holland, the eldest of 10 kids, and then we migrated as a family to Australia. My dad was a truck driver in Holland, and I wanted to be a truck driver, so I became a truck driver.
I trained then as a primary school teacher. This time that Lambert was actually taking out my sister because she was working in a town about 30 kilometres away from where I was working and living.
The sister took me home to meet the family, and lo and behold, Mum and Dad, and this is my eldest sister, Elaine. And believe it or not, God said to me, "Oh, you're going to marry that one."
I was attracted to his sense of fun. I knew he was hardworking. I also admired his spirituality and his intellect. At that stage, he was driving trucks, which I wasn't really wrapped in the lifestyle that would entail, but I decided that he was so special to me that I would take on that lifestyle if I was going to marry him.
I stopped driving trucks and I went back to my textile chemist job, and I didn't like it at all, and I hated it, and I was working with a lady there, and she said, "What's wrong, Lambert?" I said, "Oh, my girlfriend doesn't like me driving trucks." And she said, "You tell your girlfriend you're going back to driving trucks, and if she really loves you, she will still love you, and otherwise, you're best that you call it off." So I went back to driving trucks, and Elaine said, "I'll still go out with you." We got married.
Being married in the church was really important to us because we realised that we were receiving the sacrament.
We had the first child was born about 11 months after we were married.
The thing that I found difficult was Lambert being away a lot of the time, especially when the babies started to arrive. I was home on my own, looking after them. And most of the time also teaching part-time. So in some ways that was a lonely time. I just got on with it.
I gave away the truck driving. We bought a mixed business, a shop, and that was, of course, 7 days a week working, but that didn't worry me. We had that business for nearly 10 years. I sold it. Then I went back to driving trucks, of course, and I wasn't getting good money, but at least I was doing what I liked.
Some of the things that started to annoy me after we'd been married a while, the sort of things that I admired in Lambert initially, he was hardworking and I admired that. But the fact that he was working so hard and away from home so much, I found that difficult. I also admired his sense of humour, but sometimes I really didn't understand what his humour was about, and I sometimes didn't know whether he was fair dinkum or whether he was joking. And because of that, he used to think that I didn't have a sense of humour, which I don't think was right at all, because I do have quite a sense of humour. I suppose the main thing that I found difficult was Lambert's reluctance to really communicate. And at times, in order to get him to communicate, I used to have to provoke an argument, which I really didn't like doing, but it was often the only way that I could get him to open up and share what he was thinking or feeling.
We did have the odd argument, and then, well, I'd shut up and not talk for 24 hours. And then I'd pretend that normal self again. But I wouldn't apologise for yesterday. That sort of wasn't in my nature. I just didn't see the importance of me helping her in our house with our kids. But I just didn't see the importance of that, and she used to have to pull me into gear, for want of a better word. She had to sort of say, now listen, you know, this is both of us, not just one of us. And yeah, we'd have a bit of an argument, but the romance part of our life got much duller. I used to love romancing a woman with flowers or something, but I thought that was no longer necessary, because I was a married man now, so I had a wife at home, and her job was to love me and keep me entertained and look after our children.
While we were running the shop, Lambert actually had a nervous breakdown, and that was particularly difficult, because at that stage he wasn't able to even face stepping inside the shop or working there at all, so I had to take on the running of that shop.
Everything was good, but it slowly, Elaine was busy with her teaching work, and the shine went off the marriage, and I remember thinking, gee whiz, is this all there is? I thought life would have been much more happier and upbeat than it was, and I sort of felt a bit, not cheated, but I thought, gee whiz, if I'd have known that marriage, that the happiness could go downhill, I couldn't have done a thing about it, because that's how I thought life was.
When we'd been married 13 years, we had 3 children. A lot of our friends were attending a marriage encounter weekend. So I decided that we would look at this marriage encounter weekend and see what it had to offer us. Lambert was a reluctant participant, but he came because he knew I wanted to come.
It started off brilliantly, I thought, and it slowly got a bit duller, but I was a bit afraid of this marriage encounter business for fear that it would open something that I was afraid of, or I didn't know what was in there, but I was afraid that something had come out that I may not like, or that might hurt my marriage. And the bit of happiness I still had, I didn't want that destroyed. But because Elaine really wanted to go, we decided that we would attend this weekend. For the first time, I learned that I had not let God down by not becoming a priest, as I intended when I was young, but I had really done God's will by getting married to Elaine. that had been God's plan for us, and I did not realise that till that weekend. It made a permanent change on me. I treated Elaine much better, with more love and respect, and I now realise that if I came home even after a day's work, I still had to help, still should help her, or I wanted to help her. I wanted to do a lot more for Elaine than I had done previously. I realised how much she loved me, and I became aware of just how much I loved her, and I was prepared to permanently alter my lifestyle to do the right thing by her.
I think the biggest impact it had on us was it gave us tools to really communicate with each other. Whereas before the weekend, particularly Lambert wouldn't open up to me, whereas the marriage encounter weekend gave us the tools to be able to communicate our feelings and our thoughts, and gave us the tools to continue that on an ongoing basis. And that really made a big difference to our relationship. And it still is today, over 40 years later. It's still impacting on our relationship and our lifestyle.
It made me realise, to be honest, what a bad husband I was beforehand. I just did things and I did not realise how much they hurt Elaine. And what's more, I thought I was entitled to feel like that and to do what I did. And I felt now that she was more worthy of, no matter what I did, I found that she was worth more. And I put myself out quite comfortably. I would do things for her. And I just felt, yes, that's another way I can show her that I love her. When we invited God into our marriage more, God became the third person in our marriage. And yet that just, to think that God was there, certainly improved my outlook on my marriage, that I could show my love for God by being good to Elaine.
My faith has always been important to me. In my younger days, it was very much formalised, formal prayer, rosary, and that really helped me to develop a relationship, become more involved with Scripture, and develop a more personal relationship with God, which, and particularly with the Holy Spirit, that has a strong impact and influence on my life now. We've made more time for each other. Of an evening, I will, unless I really have to, I don't do anything after dinner. And we usually watch TV or something together, make sure that we've got that time. Whereas, because I want to get things done, there's always plenty that I can do. So I try and not do that particularly of an evening and spend that time together doing something.
Yeah, well, together. And I have sort of matured enough to pick a TV program that both of us like, and not just about trucking in Western Australia or shows that are very much my scene and not Elaine's. And I now am determined, when she comes to watch TV, that that I pick something that she would like to watch, because otherwise it's just another little way of showing her that I appreciate her, and that, yes, that I want her to enjoy it, not just to sit there to be next to me and then take no interest in what's going on.
My parents are amazing. Like, I've got a very good example that they've set for us. They just spend so much time together. So I think that obviously enhances, their relationship. But yeah, I think that they're just obviously made for each other because Mum, obviously they met when they were quite young, but yeah, they've just, and as I said, Mum's incredible the way she supports us as a family and supports Dad, and yeah, I don't think we would have Dad with us as well as he was if not for the support that Mum was able to give him and help him in everyday life and everything that goes on.
Sometimes you'll sort of do something inadvertently that upsets me, and I'll sort of get a bit upset, and then you'll say, look, I'm very sorry, will you forgive me? And it puts me in a real spot that I simply have to say yes, because if I said no, I mean, God knows what had happened. But she can put me in, I don't mean this as a criticism, but she can actually make me say what I should say. And if it's something that's she's upset me with, she will genuinely ask for forgiveness. And then, of course, I have to genuinely say yes. And that is still difficult for me, but I know that Elaine means it and does it with the best intentions, so I have to forgive you.
I think the important thing about communication between any couple is to be able to look beyond the issue and try and listen to how it is affecting the person themselves, how they actually feel about it. If Lambert tells me that if he lets me know how it really affects him and how what I'm doing, how he feels about it, I'm then much more able and willing to change, rather than if he just says, this doesn't suit me. If I can really understand how my actions are really affecting him, then I'll look at it and say, well, right, I can change that, and I can do it differently. There needs to be commitment from both parties to work things out and make it work. And you really have to try and put yourselves, walk in the other person's shoes to really try and work out what it is like to be in the other person's shoes. And if both can do that, and then be prepared to give and take.
Well, I think it's very important that they communicate fully and honestly, even if it does cause a bit of an argument or a fight. I don't mean a fist fight, but a fight. They must still bring it out on the table, and I put my view and Elaine puts her view, and that we are both honest and open with the whole thing, and that is the only way you can heal a disturbance, or whatever you call it, in between a couple.
Are you searching for purpose of life? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.